Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm Larry Ziliaks, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, our guest is Laura Herzog. She's the founder and CEO of a nonprofit called Honoring Our Fallen. I just ran across this organization. I saw, I think it was an article or a story about what they do, and they have a number of programs. We're going to get into all of that, but one of the things that they did was hero missions, where they arranged for burial escorts through a number of different organizations, law enforcement, fire departments, things like that, for veteran funerals, and I'm sure they do a lot more than that to help the family. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And what you just described is what I've spent my whole morning doing.
That's, I know the family's going to be very thankful for that. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to found this organization.
I never wore the uniform. I was a civilian public affairs officer on a global war on terror funded contract. My life forever changed on the 10th of November, 2009. And I had watched hundreds and thousands of soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors, posties deploy, come home, meet babies for the first time. But I worked on a joint base. But I had never sat in the living room with a mom that had just been told that her son was dead and never coming home. And that 10th of November, 2009, Lance Corporal Justin Swanson, 21 years old from Anaheim, had been killed by an IED. And when the first sergeant came in my office, I thought he wanted me to go take pictures at another cake cutting for the Marine Corps birthday. And that wasn't where we were going. And that's not what the rest of the day was going to look like. And, you know, I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I wasn't a grandma back then. But I'm a mom and I'm a sister and a spouse. And I just remember thinking that, you know, it's right before Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming, and like this whole family's, like, the rug has been pulled up from underneath them. Their whole world has been shaken to the core. Yeah. And I walked through that process with that family and with that first sergeant, and that Marine came home, and I believed now. I didn't quite see it then. And then when my 2-year contract ended, when the federal drawdown happened, my slot that I was in, that civilian slot, was one of the 106 slots that were federally funded here in California that no longer had federal funding. That my slot and 105 other slots in California were no longer funded. And so I was kind of upset and, you know, all of that. But I knew that I had found what I was called to do. And so I literally started honoring our fallen. And my last day of federal employment was the 28th of January, 2011. And February the 3rd, I was out working with the logo and the website.
Yeah. How many... let's talk about the different programs. So just looking at the webpage, you have a number of different programs. Is there one that is sort of the lead program or that you spend the most time on?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So kind of like what your initial, like, how did we all get started? Where did we come from? And that is that I saw that there was a gap. I saw that there was a gap. There's a gap between the active duty military casualty officer. So a lot of people, especially veterans, might misunderstand, like, why does this organization need to exist? Like, the military does it. You're right. The military does do it. They assign a casualty officer to the family. That casualty officer is assigned by, you know, it depends on what branch of service, but like for the Army, it's assigned through the CAC, through Headquarters Marine Corps, through Air Force Mortuary Affairs. So there's a casualty officer assigned to that family to walk them through the process of getting their loved one home and getting them buried with the honors. There's a lot of things that come on the outside. And so kind of in the beginning of our conversation, you were talking about the hero mission. And so I had shared with you that that's what I spent my morning doing. And that is what I spent my morning doing. We have a young 82nd Airborne Army soldier that died in a training accident, whose remains will be returned to California tomorrow. And I spent the morning coordinating with Ontario PD, Ontario Fire, LA County Fire, Whittier Police, Long Beach. So everywhere that the procession is going to go, to assist in supporting what the family desires. And that's, getting the community to come out to honor their hero, their fallen soldier, as he makes his final journey home to be laid to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so that is why the organization was started to begin with. And so that is and always will be our primary focus. So maybe some of your listeners may misunderstand that, yeah, okay, well, right now we're not at war, 100%. But we're still losing active duty service members. This soldier just died in a training accident, so we work alongside, we serve about between 100 to 200 missions a year, serving the dignified arrival, funeral, and burial for our active duty component, first responders, and so forth. So that is our primary program for the organization. Mm-hmm. And then the secondary and the third, we have our Flag Forever Hero at Riverside National Cemetery, over 260,000 buried in the ground, that we have the flag program. We have our widows and moms retreats and our continued care events for the surviving family members. And then we have our random acts of love. And so that's really just a chance for us to, once the funeral's all done, so many people, we all know, even in the civilian world, like my mom was killed by a wrong-way driver last year. And everybody was blowing up my phone, for the first couple of weeks after she passed. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And, and then, after a couple of weeks after the funeral's done, then everybody goes back to their life.
Sure.
And, and you don't hear from them all the time. And so our Random Acts of Love is a program where we want to reach out to them. We don't want it to be the angel anniversary. We don't want it to be the birthday. We don't want it to be Memorial Day. We want it to just be a random day in the year where they open the mailbox and, we don't know what their day looks like that day, but they open it and there's a package in there and a little note saying, hey, we remember, we don't forget. And I've received messages from those families and they say, I don't know how you knew, but that day that package came, I was having a rough day. And I didn't know. It's just following God's leading and calling on my life personally. And that therefore has evolved into what this organization is and what they stand for and what we do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think our listeners, primarily veterans and family members, but they're very familiar with casualty officers and what their job is, and it's a tough job. But I think the one thing that people don't realize as much is that when that casualty officer is assigned and they're escorting the remains home, they have no idea about the area in which they're going to be operating, where they're taking this loved one home to. They've never been to that place. They don't know local resources. They're not familiar with law enforcement or the VFW or the American Legion or any of the organizations in the area that can help. Their job is just, from point A to point B, and then help the family understand what resources are available to them. So, I think the role that you all play is just amazing, because we know from experience that communities and Americans want to help, and they want to honor our soldiers whenever they can. Right. And they just don't know how. And you guys, you guys just provide an amazing service to the families and to service men and women around the country. And the other thing I'd say, too, is that a lot of listeners don't really understand is that, yes, we're not at war, but currently with what's going on in the Middle East, we have 50,000 people deployed in the Middle East.
Yes, we do. And I have friends that are over there right now.
Yeah, and in Africa. And we still see wounded, ill, and injured coming into the retreat here, the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. So we know that there's active conflict.
And yeah, you and I know, and your veteran community knows. And I like what you said, just so that I don't forget and I don't get that lost in the importance and the significance of it. And that is that it truly 100% takes a village. And what am I referring to in that is that we don't do this alone. Like this morning, like I was referencing, like I have some amazing, since I've been doing this for 14 years, I have relationships with the Patriot Guard riders that are 45,000 strong across the country in the different states, in the different areas, the VFWs, a lot of the prior service. So the escort is the one that we help too. So you were kind of talking about the casualty officer and the escort, two different, but both having those same things. And so like today was getting a hold of American Airlines, making sure that the escort that's going to be the Army escort that's going to, 22 years old, that's going to be assigned to escort his best friend, his fallen brother home, that we make sure that we get the seats, get him in an area that he's up towards the front of the plane so that he can be ready to get off when it's time for the transfer of the remains, and, doing all that logistical stuff. And so that was my kind of in the weeds comment about what you were saying about our organization. So the way that I look at it is we, and when I went through my interviews with the casualty branches and stuff like that for our services to be approved, is that we work with the casualty officer to find out what the family wants, and then we help bring all of these people, like you're talking about, so many people out there that want to help, that want to do something. And so what we can do is bring this resource from over here, this resource from over here, this resource from over here, and bring everybody together so that we can all do it, because we're all part of the village.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's what I think is important is the collaboration of, whether it be a state, a city, a county, municipal entity, whether it be a veteran VSO, veteran services organization, whether it be a local business, whether it be anything, and all of us working together, which is what I feel so blessed to have, been with my team as far as building is so that, like, literally this morning, I got this guy in this county, this guy in this county, this, boom, boom, boom. It all comes together. They hit their buttons, I hit their buttons, and then we're all contributing, we're all honoring, we're all supporting this family in the ways that we're capable of doing based on operational capabilities, with law enforcement and first responders and so forth. But yet at the same, it all just runs smoothly then for exactly what you said, for the casualty officer who doesn't know who to call, and the escort and so forth. And that's kind of the thing, that they have their military jobs that they have to do all day. They don't have time to figure out who to call in this state or city or whatever.
Yeah. So talk about your team. How many employees do you all have? What's the size of the organization?
So I founded the organization for the first 7.5 years. We were all volunteers. No one was paid. I had a change in life, being the mom of a special needs developmentally disabled child, and kind of came down to where the rubber met the road, that I couldn't have a job to make a salary and run the organization. I ran it as a volunteer full time for the first 7.5 years. I do now collect a salary. I am the only paid staff for the organization. We believe that all the money that we raise needs to go back to serving the families. And so we have retired law enforcement officers. Our team is comprised of some active duty law enforcement officers and things like that. So, veterans that we worked with, most of them Marines that were I first sergeants that have retired out and gotten out of the Marine Corps, but work with me across the country to be available when I've got a mission in their state or in their AO. And so we are a volunteer-based organization with one paid staff person, and that is myself. We also do believe in complete transparency. So if you go to honoringourfallen.org, our website, go down to the bottom, there'll be our transparency statement, and there's a link, a hyperlink that will connect you to our current 2023 990s for our tax return, so that the donors and sponsors and the people that are supporting us, that they can see where the money goes.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you're not paying yourself enough. I guarantee that.
Well,
because that's the world of veteran service organizations, and our organization's no different. We all start as volunteers, and finally somebody says, look, we got to pay you for what you're doing. And okay, we'll get gas money. But yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about funding. First of all, for our listeners, the webpage is honoringourfallen.org, O-R-G. So I want everybody to go to the webpage. When you get there, you're going to see a button at the top, like most veteran service organizations, that says donate. I want everybody to hit that button and donate whatever they can.
Well, you might be able to help me reach my goal there. Now that you just said that. So my goal by the end of 2024 is to get 500 donors giving at least $10 a month.
Okay.
And I'm about 350 away from that goal. So I know that there's so many VSOs and there's so many other causes between kids and grandkids, and somebody's got Pop Warner and someone's got, the PTA and this and this. So we figure if we can get 500 donors to give $10 a month, that would just do tremendous things for us.
All right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to sign up for that. So now you're one less.
Woohoo! Thank you.
So what do? I go to the donate page, put in $10,
and it'll give you, it'll just give you a button whether you want it reoccurring. And then it also gives our donors the chance to pick if they want it to go to a specific program. Like there's some people that really are passionate about the hero missions, and so they'll select if that's where they want the money to go. Thank you. What a blessing. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to put general fund all programs and services so that you can get a raise. What's the geographical area that you operate in the most? Is this a nationwide program, or is it primarily California, West Coast, or?
So it is a nationwide program. So I work with casualty officers across the country. It doesn't mean that I'm always on the ground. One of my team members could be on the ground, but I still do logistical coordination across the country. I actually just flew. So a lot of times, especially with the Marine Corps here, and the families. So I just got back from a trip taking a fallen Marine Staff Sergeant Jerry Betzel, taking him on his final journey from California to Indiana after he was killed in a Humvee rollover accident at 29 Palms. So we go where the mission goes, or we send our team where the mission goes. And then if there is some reason that, that we can't physically be on the ground, then we can still offer all of our other services. And then we bring in contracted, so we still accomplish the mission even virtually remotely.
And how many missions I think you said it was a couple hundred that you do a year?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what a mission really is, kind of a breakdown of what it involves?
Yeah, so it depends on that. The first and foremost, the contingencies is the service member that passed, are their remains going to be transported? So they're likely going to be transported, but transported by plane. So for example, I had a Navy sailor recently that passed away in a motorcycle accident. He was in San Diego when he passed away on the motorcycle accident. His family lives in Temecula. And so there was just a transport of a hearse driving him. So that meant that it didn't involve what tomorrow's mission is going to involve, which is tomorrow morning. I'm going to be leaving with the sergeant first class, the casualty officer assigned to the family, from my office. We're going to leave here at about 11 a.m. We're going to drive. We're going to pick up the family. We're going to pick up the 8 family members, and we're going to travel with the hearse and the family. And we're going to go out to the airport, and we're going to go to the staging area. We're going to get there. We're going to meet the honor guard. And then we're going to wait to get the vehicles swept by the K-9 officers for access to the airfield. And we're going to drive the family and the hearse and the honor guard out. We're all three I'll be the driver of the van. The honor guard will have a driver of their van, and then the hearse will have a driver. And we're all going to go out onto the airfield to receive the casket of the fallen soldier that's going to be flown in on American Airlines. We're going to get that casket loaded. Plainside honors will take place. We'll get the casket loaded into the hearse, and then we're going to travel out of the airfield, and then we're going to travel in a procession back to the receiving funeral home. So in this case, this soldier was killed in a training accident. The family has requested to invite the community to come out to line the streets, and the fire trucks that are capable and a bit based on operational capabilities to come out on the overpasses and all of that kind of stuff. So today was working with all the local law enforcement agencies, fire agencies that are along that entire 60-mile route through cities and counties to make sure that each county was aware of it and that they can accommodate based on their operational capabilities capabilities. And so it's just a lot of phone calls and coordination. We have a fallen Marine that's coming in to Northern California tomorrow. So right before, which is my delay in getting on call with you, was working with the operations at Sacramento International Airport, Sacramento Sheriff's Department. This procession is going all the way to Chico, California, which is about 2.5 hours north of Sacramento. So working with CHP, working with Chico PD, Orland PD, and all of the agencies along that route to assist with getting this casket and this Marine from Sacramento Airport to the funeral home that service member is going to. So it's just a lot of logistical work and phone calls and relationships with these different agencies to execute, to make sure that all of this comes together at the end and that it looks seamless when the family sees it. The grieving family, it's sudden tragic death for them, and we want it to be smooth and all of that for them. So working with, I have another mission that I'm traveling on next Monday after the funeral for the fallen soldier that I have that's coming in tomorrow. Then I'll be traveling to Prescott, Arizona. And in Prescott, Arizona, I have an HM1 casualty officer and Navy casualty officer and the family of a fallen Navy sailor who died in a motorcycle accident here in California, who was he's going to be laid to rest with full military honors at Prescott National Cemetery in Prescott, Arizona. So I got to head out there so that I can help the Navy with this case in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. And I have seen, as a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, have seen videos on YouTube of people who've been in the airport and they start videotaping the arrival of a fallen soldier. And the thing I always notice is that the law enforcement, the fire department assigned to the airport, the people that work in the planes, when I was in the Air Force, we called them ramp rats. They're all out there. They're paying homage to this. It's not like they're treating the soldier as a piece of luggage, which, I guess my question is that are the airlines pretty receptive to your requests, and are they cooperative?
Well, see, here's what's interesting is, and some people, there has actually even been some pushback, even within the veteran community, about why, if this person didn't die in combat, why are all these firefighters out here? Why are all these police out here? Why are all these people out here? Shouldn't this be reserved for a combat death? And we all have our own opinion, and all of that. But what's interesting is that the police and the fire department and stuff for these airports, they go out there with or without me. Part of my reason for needing to work with them is because I need to coordinate for the family to be out there. Mm-hmm. But I have seen it where and especially I've even seen it recently where we've had World War II repatriates and the primary next to kin is 83 years old. And they're not in and especially during COVID. And then even recently, they're not in the best physical health to be able to make the 2-hour drive to the airport and then sit there and wait for the plane and everything. So we just go out there for them. We record it for them. And then they're physically present at the burial and the full honors. But, they're 83 years old and they're not in the health to do all that. So my whole point in saying that is that most of the airports are more than accommodating. Most of these ramp rats and those guys that are there on the ground, most of these guys are like you. They're veterans themselves. So they're going to honor because they see that flag over that casket and they know that that's a fallen service member, whether it be a veteran or an active duty, no brother left behind. They're going to go out there and honor that service member, So yeah, they're very, very accommodating. The only, they're just based on different airports. And this has to do with just like TSA and airport ops and ground rules is that there has to be, when it comes to a plainside arrival, whether it be Air Force, whether it be Army, Marine Corps, Coasties, any of them, even those honor guard representatives that are active duty service members or reservists in an active duty status to perform the plainside honors that are there in uniform, those guys are civilians too, as far as TSA is concerned. So in that case, they have to have a certain number of badged escorts. And you know that from being on the ground, you have to have a certain number of badged escorts for civilians. So that's where we really come in on the airport side for the coordination is because we have to give them, like today, this morning, I had to send the airport a list of first name, last name, middle initial, date of birth of all of the family members that want to be on the ground tomorrow to receive their loved one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, and then fire comes out because they want to. I mean, I can specifically speak of Ontario, an Ontario International Airport. One of the battalion chiefs for Ontario Fire there at the airport, his brother was a chief warrant officer in the Army, killed overseas in a helicopter crash.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we're going to be there, know? And so most of these, it's an internal passion that these men and women of these different agencies, they already have. And that's what makes it so easy for me and for our team to do it, because we just make the call. They believe in that. So in honoring that service member.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like all we have to do is say, hey, we need you on this date at this time. And they're there,
Yeah. Let me give everybody the webpage again. It's honoringourfallen.org, and take a look at the different programs. Go ahead and donate. I'm telling you, I just filled it out. It took all of a minute and a half to sign up for a recurring donation. Give what you can. Doesn't matter, $10, $15, $20,000, whatever you can afford. Give to the organization, because they are really one of a kind. I'm not sure that there's any others that I have heard of like doing what you do, all the coordination. Now, there's plenty of Patriot Guard and a lot of different organizations that will be out there for the family, but the coordination aspect of it is huge. You guys just do such an amazing job. I really do hope we get some listeners to support you. Last thing is there anything that you want our listeners to know that we didn't touch on?
No, just, thank you in advance for your support and for, just for your service. The veterans and the veterans' families serve too.
Yeah.
So just thank you for your service, and for your defense of my freedom to even be on the phone to have this conversation with you today. So thank you to every veteran that's listening and the veterans' families. And, if you can sign up to give monthly, it would be greatly appreciated. Maybe you want to become a volunteer. We do have some remote volunteer opportunities. You can also click on the button to register to become a volunteer. And I can let you know of different opportunities that may be available or may be coming available in the days, months, and years to come.
Great.
But thank you. I just thank you for the time to allow me to have this conversation.
Well, great. Well, we really appreciate you joining us today. So, again, listeners, the webpage is honoringourfallen.org. Take a look at it, donate, and your money is going to go to a very worthy cause. So, well, thank you very much, Laura. And
thank you.
For our listeners, we'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. Until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.